blessings, all my blessings, all my blessings, all my blessings.
I need my blessings every penny. Daily counting every single one, I'm seeing plenty. Level up and watch that beater turn into a Bentley. See I'm stunned, so I'm all I'm thinking.
Welcome to the Michael Welch podcast. No podcast last week. Did skip on the college football, NFL kind of follow up there. Unfortunately, had some stuff going on and wasn't much of a college football week as it was. But this episode going to cover some of the concerts I went to last week that took up some of my time and took away from my podcasting ability. So I did tackle Breaking Benjamin and Stained co-headlining a tour right now that is currently nameless, I do believe, just the 2024 tour for those fellas. Breaking Benjamin, I've seen about 5 times at this particular point, I do believe. I'm starting to lose track. I am trying to get better at noting and making better memories, videos, different notes on these concerts that I'm attending since I've been, starting college and really having some time and disposable income to attend more shows. And it's starting to get foggy in my memory banks here as to what I've attended. And I want to remember that stuff. I want to remember it a little bit more. It's something I really enjoy is seeing live music, and that's an important experience to me. But anyways, Breaking Benjamin, Stained, co-headline. Stained I haven't seen in probably 15 years. I'm thinking 2008. I'm thinking like the Illusions of Progress tour, the tour for that album. So I've seen them once, maybe twice within a couple year period there. Maybe 07, 08, 09, maybe twice in there somewhere. So this was, I was thinking it was my third time seeing Stained. But again, memory banks are getting a little foggy, so I'm trying to do a better job of that. I might have seen them on the tour for 2003. 14 Shades of Grey was the 03 album. Might have been Chapter 5 tour. That was 2005. The tour went on a little while after that. I don't know. Pretty sure I've seen them twice. Fantastic live. Breaking Benjamin. Last couple times I've seen them. I believe the last show I covered on here, got to see a great acoustic set where Ben got a little intoxicated, went on a rant for 12 to 15 minutes in there, maybe a little longer than that. At some point towards the back end of the show, had people getting a little impatient, I should say, to wrap the last few songs of the show there. So that was an interesting time. And the very last show that I went to out in the Grand Rapids area here in Michigan, he was ill and made a point to keep saying that the band was sick and the vocals were a little spotty. I'm not even sure that I uploaded many clips of that. I do try to take clips of the concerts. I do like to reflect on them. I know some people don't like to take live concert videos, or, the saying goes, you don't record concerts or some of these live events or fireworks because you never look back on them. Well, I sometimes do. I don't record the entire song because I do like to enjoy the moment while I'm there, but I will do a 20-30 second clip and kind of revisit the moment. I do enjoy that, and I enjoy seeing other stuff on social media as well that other folks post to kind of get a feeling and a vibe of the environment. So some of the vocals that came through from what I recorded were very bad, but he did bring up some of the vocalists from the openers to assists at times, but that show was a little spotty as well. This time was much better. So picked up the tickets a while ago. Was excited to see Stained, Breaking Benjamin again. Just a regular occurrence to see these folks when they come to town. It was a great combination. Daughtry was opening as well, and this other band called Lakeview that I'll get to in a moment. Grabbed my great friends, the sisters here, Karen and Leslie, that I typically tackle events with, and set up this exciting event day for us as we decided to go to Usher early in this year as well and found out that we had these concerts back to back for us in the Detroit area. The Stained Breaking Benjamin concert one night. The following night we had Usher at the Little Caesars Arena in Detroit. So we had set up for back to back concert evenings. So we hit up this nice little place for dinner in Clarkston, September 11th here when we went to see Stained Breaking Benjamin. And I like this place. As someone that, if I go to a bar now to watch a game, like I gotta at least see the game. Listening to it can be a struggle. Some places don't turn sound on. Sometimes you can't always hear. Sometimes they're too packed. Sometimes you can't actually get a place next to the TV. Then, of course, you've got YouTube TV, which allows you to 4-box it and put multiple games on. So, honestly, going out to watch games now is not appealing, like, at all. Even going to games sometimes is not particularly appealing. However, this restaurant here, what the hell is the name of it? Max and Irma's? No, Art and Jake's. We do not have any of these at the moment in our local area in Lansing, although I see that they're, as it happens, building one. This is pretty great. They have televisions in the outdoor seating area. Pretty great for us in Michigan, as we only are outdoors about half the year. That's pretty fantastic to be able to watch sports in the outdoor evening times, afternoons, any of that. As it happened, it was evenings. We were going out to the show here. There wasn't a whole lot on live, and the glare, of course, is intense. But still great to be able to both sit outside and enjoy the air and watch games. That's have TVs set up in with the idea that someone's going to come and eat and watch the games. So besides that, moving on to the concert now, we got there early. We set up for a longer evening. Now, the very first opener, we weren't entirely certain when Daughtry would go on. I've not seen Daughtry live. Daughtry. Not Daughtry. But Lakeview opened up. Did not know anything about this group. They're from Pennsylvania. As I know now, the focus is the dual vocalists, who are the main focus of the group. They're promoted as a dual group. So I guess the drummer, the guitarist, the bassist are just traveling performers with this group. Their debut album actually came out 2 days after I saw them perform, so it did come out on Friday the 13th. But it is a pretty stellar album. I would call it junk country. What do we call it? Junk country rock. Junk as in, not that it's bad. Junk as in it's, not too much different than some of the style that's out there right now. You listen to a couple tracks and you realize, if we threw this in with some of the other stuff that's kind of considered country rock, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference necessarily. It's not particularly unique, but it is very catchy, and I've been listening to the album the last couple days now. I enjoy it very much. Wrong Side of the Tracks is one of the songs they played. I don't have the full track listing of everything they play, but Wrong Side of the Tracks is, I believe, their lead single. Home Team, Bad Day to Be a Beer, which I thought it was supposed to be Bad Day to Be a Bear, but that's how it's spelled out on Spotify, so I assume that they know what they're doing here. Money Where Your Mouth Is were some of the tracks that were played, and they're performing live on this tour. I believe it was the first big tour, again with 2 massive bands, 3 if you want to include Daughtry in there. I certainly would. So just a great group there from, I believe, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Great duo, new to the scene with a great new album out that I expect to see mentioned more, kind of on the radio a little bit more, and I'm enjoying them quite a bit. Didn't know anything about them. Came out, 2 dudes, matching wife beaters, black pants, fully tatted arms. Other than the muscle size structure a little bit, you couldn't tell them apart because they were matching. And just surprising to see 2 vocalists come out. Neither one was playing an instrument, so it was a little different to see. But the music was pretty good live. Again, I've expressed on my podcast, my cousin Ben and I have expressed on Polymuse podcast, that live music, especially for bigger artists and bigger venues, is sometimes just not as good quality as it could be. Whether the vocals are too quiet, whether the instruments are too loud, certain instruments are too loud. You can't differentiate certain, patterns. Obviously, they use backing, all kinds of backing electronics sometimes, backing. They'll use a rhythm guitar, extra stuff that's not on the real track. Sometimes you can't hear the vocals, just the way that the singers may be inexperienced. Just all kinds of different things in live music, which is unfortunate because these are new guys. I didn't know them. We didn't know them. And you couldn't completely understand the songs, but it sounded pretty good, right? So it's just terribly unfortunate that they just can't come out and you can sing along by the time the verse comes around, the third time at least, Nevertheless, caught on pretty easy that we're like, oh, this is a band that's got something to them. The vocalists are coming through. The melodies are coming through. They're harmonizing. We like this quite a bit. And I like the debut album quite a bit. That is Lakeview, one word. Their self-titled debut album. It's got 18 tracks on it and still checks in at less than an hour. So we got some of these, 3-minute, some of them less than 3-minute tracks. None of these 4.5-minute suckers. No one needs those. They're right in that sweet spot. And I like, the writing's nothing awesome, but they're fun, catchy songs. So I like Lakeview quite a bit. Now, anyone that's listened to pop radio, rock radio, should be familiar with the Daughtry. Really, if they're 30 years or younger, I would think. Of course, his most popular tunes are still off his debut self-titled album from 2006, just after his, was it American Idol? Oh boy, I believe it's his American Idol appearance. It's Not Over, Home, Over You, Feels Like Tonight, all the huge hits off of that record that were number one and are still played on the radio today. Leave This Town came out in 2009. Break the Spell came out in 2011. Baptized in 2013. He's got a hits record compilation that came out a few years after that. Cage to Rattle in 2018. And what do we have? 2021, Dearly Beloved, and 2024, he's got another album that's coming out here. Yet, the most popular played songs are from his debut album. So do with that what you will. Those are the songs that I am most familiar with. He came out. He was very good. His vocals sound a little different than they do on the album, as you would sometimes expect. Of course, the mixing and mastering that goes in afterwards on the album production kind of changes things up a little bit. Also, he's grown in almost 20 years of making music. Of course, he's continued to release albums along the way, but still, his live vocals sounded just a little bit different. And this was the second tour date, so I'm not quite sure if he's just someone who perhaps does a little bit more tweaking on his album recordings or not, but it just sounded slightly different. Still, strong vocals, appreciated what he was doing up there. It seemed like his set might have been cut slightly short. He came out with The Reckoning, then did Pieces, and It's Not Over was the third song in his set, followed up by Separate Ways, the Journey cover. Not a big fan, as I've stated before, of folks that you pay to go see, especially ones that aren't headliners and are doing shorter sets that come out and do covers. I'm not a particularly big fan of that. We came to see your music. He came out and did The Dam. Nervous, Over You was the seventh song. Heavy is the Crown, and Artificial, according to setlist.fm that records these follow-ups. So I don't necessarily, again, keep track while I'm there doing a number of different things and activities, but I do know Home wasn't played, and he didn't come out and perform that towards the end, which was very disappointing. 9 songs, a tight 9 songs. Artificial is a big one as well on the radio. I know a lot of these charted quite well, but that was a big disappointment and a big miss, and I believe that's a regular part of his set. Was a little surprised that he didn't do that. Waiting for Superman, I believe, is a highly streamed one I'm showing as well, and he didn't tackle that one, so maybe some set changes. And of course, there are a few more shows in now, so perhaps he's made other changes to the set list, switched a few songs around, but just a surprise that a couple songs were left out there. But still, an extensive discography for him, who's kind of going to hover below that upper tier of headlining major arena or major level artists, but still just a very prolific guy, and appreciated his live performance. Waited till it got a little bit darker out, as they seem to do. Of course, they have designated set times, but still, doesn't it seem like they wait till it gets dark sometimes? That's what I keep telling myself. This is an outdoor venue. Breaking Benjamin came out. They haven't released an album in many, many years. And they came out to Failure to open the show. Followed up by Until the End, and then played Red Cold River from their most recent album, Ember, which is one that they didn't play a whole lot of in their last show. So perhaps getting around to, including a few of those songs. But again, Phobia had 6 songs played. Your Agony had 4. We Are Not Alone had a couple, and a spattering from other albums. Evil Angel was 4th, Blow Me Away 5th, followed by Follow, So Cold, Dance with the Devil, Crawl, Breathe, Polyamorous, Without You, Dear Agony, I Will Not Bow, Had Enough, and they concluded with The Diary of Jane. A nice 16 tracks, no covers. The bassist there, screaming out. Great vocals from him. He was sick last time. Ben sounded phenomenal. This was a great show. Not a whole lot of chit-chatting in this. I mean, every artist has to stop and have a little thank you, God bless, handshake, head pat, butt pat in all of these, which is fine to thank all your audiences for coming out. But again, I just think, can we hear some more music, please? That's what I think. That's what I think in all these shows. You pay good money. Let me hear you sing some of your original music. And they did a nice 16-set track. I wasn't sure if they were going to headline or Stained. My initial thought was that it would be Stained since they're promoting a new album. And indeed it was. But Breaking Benjamin, I mean, pretty well paced. I think we hit like a dozen songs before we had a little break and a little chit chat, but this was just a much better show than the last few times he came around. And the vocals were, I mean, this was a good show. We had the lights going, the stage going, and I would just recommend going to see them. I wouldn't have after the last couple of shows, but they were spot on this time. Sometimes I wonder if you get deeper into some of these tours, I kind of wonder, it's kind of like NBA games, MLB games are the same, I'm sure, hockey games, all that stuff. You can kind of pick the spots where the performances won't be as strong. But since, again, we were 2 dates in, this is the second date, they were at peak performance. So I would recommend going to see them, but maybe kind of depends on where they are, how dedicated you are to going to see them, and how far along they are in a tour, perhaps, because it doesn't always seem like they're healthy or on point, or there's always something going on with them for the most part, but a good show when they're really on it. Now, Stained was the big headliner. I was not surprised at that, but I thought it seems like Breaking Benjamin, from what I can see, might have a bigger audience than Stained. I'm not entirely certain. I'm looking at streamers on Spotify and other platforms, programs like that. Stained does have a new album though, and people seemed at this venue, DTE Energy, formerly Pine Knob, really receptive when they came out, and like this was the primary reason for going. And obviously, again, Breaking Benjamin is always on tour and never has new music. It's not to be rude. That's just what it is, right? You can always go see them. Stained, though, has their brand new album out, I guess technically 2023 at this particular point. So it gives you the ability to learn the tracks, know them quite well by this point, as we're actually closer to 2025, obviously. But Confessions of the Fallen Deluxe just came out with a few more tracks on it. And so they came out to promote that and do an extended tour for that. I believe Aaron Lewis is still, I think he's still doing tour dates for his 5th or 6th solo album right now as well. I'm not entirely certain if they're staggered in between these events or not, but I know he's still got stuff on the calendar for his music, which is enjoyable as well. Because some artists certainly do that. If they have other stuff, they do tend to layer in side performances as well on off dates for the band or group performance. So we have Confessions of the Fallen out. The previous album that they'd released was way back in 2011, of course. They're self-titled with the creepy monster on it. I don't think it did a great job charting. Not necessarily a Stained thing, just it was a 3-year break from Illusion of Progress, a little bit changing of music, a little bit different a tone. It was, again, grabbing a number of different elements, all the way from the Torment days and the Dysfunction days up through Illusions of Progress. Because, again, I think Stained has more of a wide range than a lot of these, I guess, air quotes, alternative rock bands right now, whether you're doing some of these ballads or some of these much heavier screamer tracks, or whether you're more bass heavy, or you're just, I think they have a much wider range, in part thanks to Aaron Lewis's vocals, than a lot of these bands out here, especially their counterpart Breaking Benjamin, or even 3 Days Grace, as I was comparing them at one point off mic here. Because Breaking Benjamin and 3 Days Grace at times went on tour, multiple tours back in the day. And Stained, I think, has more notes than both of those bands. But Stained's self-titled album in 2011 covered a bit of a gambit. Didn't have as many big hits, but was still a good album. But again, we knew it was the last one for a while, I believe, when it was released in 2011, as they were taking a break. Aaron Lewis, we knew, was already starting to dip the toe in some other genres, and we just knew some things were going to be a little different moving forward. And so far, there's been a lot of great reception for Confessions of the Fallen. They do have a different drummer in the mix now, much like Linkin Park, actually, ironic enough as that is. But John Wysocki checked out in 2011. Again, it was some creative differences type thing, but it sounds like there were some other just elements as well. Just wanted to do some other stuff. He went and joined Soil. He joined Lydia's Castle in 2021 before sadly passing away. That's a bummer at 53 years old. Sal Giacarelli has joined the group and technically been with them a decade now, but he's been a part of the group, and he was part of the last tour that they did, the last jaunt, a decade ago. He was formerly, I believe, the drum tech for Wysocki, so he's been around the group. But we do have a new core 4 here, and we did get quite a bit of action on the main monitors here. We, of course, get the head swinging from Mike Mushak and Johnny April, of course. We got a little bit of him on the bass. He doesn't get nearly as much camera time, you know. He doesn't have the long flowing hair like Mike does to whip around there. But the opener for Stained was Lowest in Me, followed by Eyes Wide Open, Fade, Right Here, and Not Again. Lowest in Me is from their newer album. It is the opening track on Confessions of the Fallen. So a song that folks should know the words to and kind of get the new and hopefully the old back in there. It's a nice opener, and the vocals are strong on it. We get a nice Aaron Lewis belting out there. Just excellent all the way through. He does all the vocals for the group. He does the screaming, he does the singing, he does the lows, he does the highs. He's your guy for Stained. Just a very talented artist. I appreciate his country music as well, his solo stuff. Just an incredibly talented guy. So they open up with that one, Eyes Wide Open, Fade, Right Here Waiting. Oh, love that song. Not Again. Followed up by Here and Now, Something to Remind You, Raw. Going back, way back to the 90s. Outside and Wannabe, which is from the 2011 album. So just a mix all the way through, which is a great way to do it. Because you have the older fans, which I would say is from your original releases from the late 90s up through the mid 2000s. And then the folks that aren't quite familiar with your 2011 as you kind of came back there. And then this newer album as well from the 2020s here. They finished up the main set with Better Days, So Far Away, and For You, those last two songs off of the hit CD, of course, Break the Cycle. One of the first albums I ever had the parental advisory, explicit content. I remember listening to It's Been a While. It was on a collaboration CD, Family Values CD perhaps, on an ad, and I remember listening to that and wanting to go and buy the album. Went to Best Buy with my mom. I was whatever years old at the time. I must have been not old enough to buy the CD by myself. And she had to say, what does this sticker mean, to one of the employees? You know, I knew what it meant, but I wasn't going to tell her. He's like, oh, there could be some bad language in it, you know, whatever. And she allowed me to get the album. And I think it scared me a little bit at first. Some of the cursing, some of the darkness in it. My first email address ever, though, was Stain2000. Still is to this day. And I love Stained ever since. Grew with it, grew into it, and really appreciated the band. So that was just really memorable tracks to me. They came back out to an encore, It's Been a While, and Mud Shovel to wrap it up. Two of their older tracks, of course, from those first two albums. Of course, Torment was their first album. Whether you call it an EP, an album, before they signed a really big album deal. But because they titled their fourth album Chapter 5, that was when they said, well, we're now counting Torment in there before Dysfunction. And we're counting our fourth album, Chapter 5, so that earlier album we're numbering in our sequence now. So that's how that kind of went. So some of the bands don't count that first rough draft album as a, in the count necessarily, especially because Torment and Dysfunction have similar tracks. Torment came along, they re-recorded some of them, mixed and mastered them, did a little bit better job, arguably, right? And just kind of cleaned them up a little bit. And but they still include Torment in there now, and the album count is the very first. And Dysfunction is number 2 then. So great set by them. Minimal talking. Aaron Lewis didn't say much. That's fine. Great vocals, great instrumentals. I thought they did a pretty good job. I thought you could hear the vocals pretty well in this set, which again is always debatable. And I really appreciated, everything that they put into this. I thought the lights were great. The background screens are pretty good. I still don't understand why some of the openers aren't allowed some of the same type of work that the headliners aren't. I mean, you have a video board up there. You have some of the similar effects. You can't tell me the budgeting's that much different when you have all these bands lined up to go. And we all know who the headliner is. It's the one that closes it out. So why can't some of the openers have run a video up through there and some of that stuff? I don't understand that. But because Stained had all the stuff going, kind of like Breaking Benjamin did, they did a good job with it. Good to see all the guys back together. Again, strong performance. Really love Stained. Every time I've seen them, they deliver. They do a great job, and I hope to see a solo Aaron Lewis show at some point here in the future. Usher Raymond has been bucket list for me for a very long time. I listened to his music growing up. He is now 45 years old. He's been an entertainer for 30 of those years. I obviously grew up on his very early albums. He hit it big with Confessions, which is a top 50 selling album of all time. One of only 92 albums to ever go diamond, which is selling 10 million plus copies. He, in the past 2.5 years, has been on a residency in Las Vegas, performing several times a week, a handful of times plus a week out there in Vegas. for a 2+ hour show. In the meantime, he's been recording his 10th studio album, and now he's going on a tour for the next year plus. And for him, this was his, I think, 3rd concert appearance here at the Little Caesars Arena in Detroit, because he canceled a couple of shows in his home area of Atlanta to start off. So I believe this was the first handful of shows to start off his tour. But they kept adding shows as well. One of those big arenas where they keep adding more shows. So he was in Toronto, he was in Brooklyn, and then he was in Detroit. So he was fresh, he was ready to go. I don't like sports venues as big entertainment concert venues because I was basically standing sideways to watch for a good chunk of the show, or at some awkward angle sometimes, and I kind of wonder if people behind me can see, but that's what it is in those arenas. Now, looking down, he did have a stage that thankfully wasn't kind of flat and cut off a back end of the stadium. It had an extension stage where you could come out and walk around. It kind of puffed out, and there's a VIP section in the middle that he could walk around, and there was a B stage as well in the back end of the arena where he did some performing as well, and it was just phenomenal. We had the lights, we had the camera, we had the action. Now, his tour was called the Past, Present, Future Tour, I believe. We had cuts of video in between, and it was supposed to run the gambit of his discography and had some video cuts in there. It wasn't really important or super put together. The idea was that there was AI kind of running the show, guiding you through his life, and little anecdotes of advice, and guiding you from young Usher and showing clips of that all the way up to wanting to be a strong father figure for he's got 4 kids moving forward. And it even the premise is strange and not really relevant and disrupted itself, because we didn't go straight through the discography. It was intentionally disrupted to kind of mix songs in. So I was happy that we didn't just go from early songs to newer stuff. We kind of mixed it all in. I'm glad that we did a little variety, but the whole past, present, future with the intermittent AI stuff was really unnecessary. The idea was he could do costume changes in between, and he had all kinds of stuff. A rollerblading segment, a bedazzled jacket suit, silver thing going on, a red velvet jacket thing, all kinds of stuff going on. That was pretty fantastic, but I'm not sure about all the video board stuff that was going on throughout this one. But he had no openers for this 2-hour show. He had his DJ with him that did a DJ set so that it pushed the start time back to 9 o'clock. But that was it. He opened with Coming Home, leading into Hey Daddy, Daddy's Home. And then Big, Call Me a Mac, and My Way. In that first handful of songs, you got stuff ranging from his earliest 14-year-old, 15-year-old self all the way up into his newest album here. And so he just got stuff from 4 CDs right off the bat. His first album was released in 1994, the Usher self-titled album. 97, My Way came out, which was a big entryway for a lot of folks. 8701 came out in 2001, so there's a few years break before that was released. Confessions came out in 2004, followed by Here I Stand in 08. Raymond versus Raymond in 2010, along with Versus in 2010 as well. And those shared a couple tracks, I do believe, but he really was tearing places up with those songs. Looking for Myself in 2012. Hard to Love in 2016. He did release the A album in 2018, which was a collaboration with the producer Zaytoven. That was only an 8-track album. He did release Coming Home then, his newest album here in 2024. So if you count that collaboration with Zaytoven, it's actually his 11th album that's been released here. Over a 30-year career at this point, as I stated earlier, just simply astounding. And to still be working this hard, singing and dancing, one of the reasons he's been on my bucket list is not only because I've enjoyed his songs for 20 plus years myself, and I think he's immensely talented, but because he can sing and dance And I think the breathing that's required for that is very difficult for a lot of singers and dancers. I've seen Chris Brown live. I enjoy his music and his extensive discography, but he has to sing or dance. He can't do both. And if you look at a lot of concert footage from Usher, he's immensely talented to do both things. He does a lot of different stage stuff, and he's just an incredible act all the way around, I think. And I think the residency in Vegas and some of the clips you see there is really shows that. And from some of those clips, I see that his show that I saw for this tour is some of the same stuff, some of the similar stuff, that he put a lot of thought into what he was doing for this tour, into a back screen, a backboard. They have a number of different dancing routines, and then coming out of that, they have a front stage and then a circular platform to kind of, or a platform that extends in a circle to work on, as well as a second stage. He's bringing out a number of guests as well on this. So he runs through that initial 5-song jaunt. He is able to do a number of costume changes throughout. I can't remember exactly what he came out in. I might have a clip of it I can post on my social media. 6th song was You Make Me Wanna, followed by You Remind Me, Caught Up. And he plays a brief snippet of Yeah, as he does a dance segment into Don't Waste My Time, which they come out in roller skates. He does, and his dancers, has a number of dancers throughout this as well. Don't Waste My Time, he does, and an ATL roller skate medley to a bunch of course, artists that we know, including the Yin Yang Twins and Little John, the East Side Boys, and Get Low. So a nice start out there to his whole segment, from a great dance routine to including his beginnings and his, like, where he's from and different costume changes, all in the first 40 minutes maybe. He follows those up with his Love in the Club segment, New Flame segment, the Chris Brown song Margila, which is one of his new tracks, Party as well. There was the originally Chris Brown song, his segment as well, and he starts throwing out some money into the audience. He has a new outfit at this point as well. I believe this is when he comes out in the red robe. And a Little Freak as well, where he has a bunch of pole dancers and stuff coming out. He then does Lovers and Friends as well, and this is great. Little John, the East Side Boys, I don't know if it's Crunk Juice or Kings of Crunk. I owned both those CDs when I was 13 years old. I was listening to those, and that's the one of those albums, Little John, the East Side Boy albums, where that song was originally off of, so he was a feature on that track. But the Lovers and Friends was his next performance, followed by Nice and Slow. He comes out, just him, white tee. He starts to take it off slowly throughout for all the ladies. He's got his microphone stand, grinding, all that. So that is Nice and Slow, a song that I also love, covered by Craig David as well. He does You Got It Bad, mostly shirtless. Climax as well, great song. And then we go to another interlude, and he comes out and does Burn, and then Confessions. I think he does part 1 and 2. So we get a whole nice section there from, of course, his Diamond album there. And then we hit Euphoria, Oh My God, and DJ Fall in Love Again, and Superstar, and I think we do part of Trading Places, but I don't really recollect that. I'm trying to go off of a set list that's posted here. But this is about the time that he pulls Big Sean up on stage. And we'd heard rumors just prior to the show that Big Sean was in the building to make a surprise appearance. And this is it towards the back third of the concert, the back end of the concert, where he comes up and makes his appearance here right after Euphoria, Oh My God, DJ Got Us Falling in Love Again, Superstar, maybe a transition from Trading Places. I don't know if Usher actually sang that, but I think we had an instrumental transition into a call-up for Big Sean, who was at the front of the stage there. We did Bounce Back. Then he had an escort with Usher, high-fiving stands down from one stage into the back area where the DJ and sound was. And at a smaller stage, they had some pole dancers and stuff, and we're throwing out fake bills. And Usher was also doubling as like a server. He's mixing some drinks for some of the, I think, VIP people back there. I think they had some backup dancers as well at the back area. And he was serving as Big Sean did I Don't Fuck With You. And I think he did one more track back there as well. I think we got 3, maybe even 4 songs out of Big Sean. I don't think he completed all 4, but he managed to play in both areas in the stage. So he pretty much got seen by everyone as he walked around. So that was pretty cool, especially for the folks on the lower level. And as he walked off stage, he got maybe 12 minutes of stage time. Then Usher was able to make some time with fans, hugging, kissing, as he walked along fans again up to the main stage area on the floor there. And he hit There Goes My Baby, Kissing Strangers, Bad Kisser, no, Bad Girl, Good Kisser. There we go. And then he hit Ruin, which is his newer single, which I absolutely love, off his newer album. Just a slower song. I like his falsetto in that. Beautiful. And we were pretty much at the end at that section. We did Seduction. We had one final video, kind of a closer. And then we ended, of course, with new outfit change, new dancers, and all the sound, lights, everything. His show did clock in at less than 2 hours. I'm kind of thinking that maybe he could have fit another song or 2 in. Maybe they gave too much time allowed for like Big Sean. Like they just carved out a section of time in his show for that, and it didn't take that full allotted amount of time. I mean, no openers. So I kind of think you need to run a full 2 hours. He ran like maybe an hour 50. I mean, we were making our way out of the building. It's still under 2 hours, I think. Just about like an hour 50 something. So still, I was thrilled with the show. He sings, he dances. Now, I think if you watch some of his shows, pieces on YouTube and stuff like that, wherever, I think he might pace himself now that he's getting older. And the audience does sing some more of the chorus. He does give some more to the audience. Now sing with me. Now, sing this part back. Now let me hear from you. And he'll stick with the dancing and the background dancings and the routine and choreography. But there's so much loud singing for most of the songs that sometimes it drowns him out. And I think he knows that sometimes. And I also think that he saves his voice a little bit for some of the stronger songs, some of the high notes, especially because he's older now. And I still love his show. I love all that. But I think it brings it down just a touch when he doesn't do all the same pieces. And there are segments online of him singing all the way through the songs. But still, he can sing, he can dance, he can hit all the high notes. He's a phenomenal performer. I love the way the stages are set up differently. I would go see him again. He has so many phenomenal hits. Again, he has a diamond record. There's less than 100 diamond certified records in existence. So that's incredible. And I thoroughly enjoyed my time. I tried to get into his Vegas show when I was there last year. Tickets for his show cost more for the whole When We Are Young festival. So that was not real practical at the time. But I loved seeing this show. I love that he's constantly on tour. It's kind of surprising he isn't burnt out more often, but just a great performer, and I just love to see him continue to go. It's amazing that someone so talented and so accomplished is actually talked about so little in the headlines, quite frankly. I'm glad there's no negative, news right now attached, but just a phenomenal show. So if you get an opportunity, I would definitely go and check out Usher. And it kind of makes me want to push Justin Bieber onto my list of someone that I really want to see. He's obviously getting older. He's stayed out of the limelight for many a year now, and he's going to continue to stay that way, expecting his first child here. He turned down a Super Bowl spot, I believe, to perform. He just seems like he's really chill now as he's starting to push 30 years old. Family man now. His music's grown up a little bit, I think. And, he came up under Usher's tutelage as a performer, as a singer and a dancer. And as you see clips of Justin throughout the years here, even though he's not putting out new music, if he's performed here and there, his voice has really matured and grown. And there's many other influences now, of course, throughout the years. And you can't necessarily attribute everything positive or everything negative to where you first started, right? It's up to that disciple as to whether or not they really latched on to certain aspects that were positive and continued to grow them, that kind of thing. But from where Usher ended up right now and what he's had the opportunity to pass on to someone like Justin Bieber, even if he's not a big part of his life right now, they're in different pathways. I would very much like to see Justin Bieber now. I assume he'd go on tour again at some point, maybe years still in the future, if he decided to put out more music, more mature for his age. His voice would be more mature, and he'd go on tour, maybe do some more singing, some dancing, and really show off his voice. I think that would be phenomenal to see someone who more or less came out of the directly under an Usher vein and where he first started his career. I think that would be tremendous. So it's kind of bumped up Justin Bieber, I think, in my priority list as far as seeing him if he ever went, when he does go on tour again. It'll happen again. He's still got many years ahead of him. So I really enjoyed those two shows last week, and I'll keep you updated on anything else exciting that I go to. Thanks for listening. I'll have the college football watch guide up this week, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
All my blessings, all my blessings, all my blessings, all my blessings.
I need my blessings every penny. Daily counting every single one, I'm seeing plenty. Level up and watch that beat turn into a Bentley. See, I'm stunned, so I'm all I'm thinking, please don't tell me.